Welcome to another edition of Mob Talk. I'm Dave Schratwieser.
And I'm George Anastasia.
George, it's not every day you get to talk to the former head of Squad 1, the FBI's organized crime squad in Philadelphia. We have him this week.
This guy's seen a lot and he's done a lot.
All right, we're joined this week by John Terry, former head of Squad 1, FBI's organized crime squad. Thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, George, let's start over here if we can. Talk about the state of the Philadelphia mob right now. A lot of guys on the street.
I think it's in flux right now. And, there are different people doing different things. I'm not sure anybody's in charge. And right now, I think everybody is making a little bit of money and there's no conflicts. As long as it stays like that, it'll be quiet. If there is conflicts, we may have a problem.
Okay, John, we have Merlino guys on the street, we have Legambi guys on the street, we have the Scarfo guys on the street, the older guys, old heads, young guys, wannabes. Give me your kind of view of the Philly mob right now.
Conflict's inevitable. Sooner or later, paths are going to cross. Someone's going to feel that they got cheated out of something that they felt they deserved, and that's when the conflicts start, and that plays right into our hands, quite frankly.
Okay, it's been a while since there's been a big roundup in Philadelphia. You and I were talking about that before. 2001, a couple of indictments in between, but nothing big.
No major RICOs.
Could you see something like that coming?
That's always the goal, because those cases are the ones that are the best to prosecute, because you're getting a lot of different crimes in there. It allows you to go back and pull in a lot of different activities as opposed to just very specific isolated criminal charges. So that's always the goal, and I'm sure they're working on that right now.
Okay, and George, you and I have talked about this before. Something like that's going to have to include murders, right?
I think so. I think given what's happened in the last 10 years, the big cases are the ones that are racketeering murder charges. They carry the most weight, and I think if the prosecution is going to come again, it's going to come with something like that. And there certainly are enough unsolved murders out there to build a case. We said before, the question is, are they going to have enough evidence to make it?
All right, John, you know the Justice Department, how it works like that. Could you see them coming with another case minus some mob hits in it?
I could if there's some sex appeal to it. So to me, what would be sexy is if these guys start getting into white collar type crime, like happened recently with Scarfo Jr. over in New Jersey. Those types of cases, because there's a significant financial impact, I think would generate the type of interest that would make them want to prosecute.
And they could carry heavy jail sentences. As the monetary value of that scam or scheme goes up, you get banged with more years in prison.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of thing you want. You want a heavy hammer here, right?
You want to, you want your most bang for the buck. I mean, there's limited resources, so we want to make good use of them.
But you'd agree you don't come unless you have a hammer this time around, right?
I would say so, yes.
You're not going to take another shot at Joey Merlino unless it's a good shot, right?
Well, what do they say? If you chop off the king's arm, he comes back stronger. So I would say, yeah, they want to make sure that they come back strong if and when that happens.
All right, George, what's the buzz kind of around town? We did a piece about the murders and FBI looking at them again. I'm sure you've heard some buzz.
I think everybody wants to know, is this just another fishing expedition or is there something behind what we're hearing? And I don't know the answer to that. I know, and we've mentioned this before, these guys that are out there know what they've done. And from the federal perspective, I think some guys think these guys have gotten away with murder. So can you make that case? Don't know the answer to that, but that's what everybody's talking about. Is this just more fishing, more questioning, or is there something significant? Is there a grand jury focused, or is there a grand jury just taking some evidence and building a case long term?
All right, John, it's no secret that the good cases, the real heavy duty cases, include a cooperator or an informant or both. And would you like to see that this time around? If they were going to go that route, do you need something like that?
I think absolutely. You've got to have somebody on the inside, somebody who was playing a role, was talking to them, had access, similar to guys like Ron Previty and others. You need that inside information. With the one exception, if they get a good white collar case, the level of importance for someone inside can go down if there's a good paper trail.
Okay, let's talk a little bit. If some of the things we hear they're into is LED lighting, house flipping, all kinds of other things like that. I think they got a safety training academy they've been tied to with the Genovese crime family in New York. That's the kind of cases you're talking about, right?
The white collar cases, yep. The type of cases where there's a paper trail, whatever that paper trail, whatever form it takes, whether it's bank records or whatever, but those are the kind of cases where they can start putting something together, they can demonstrate financial loss, and then they can start putting, affixing people responsible for orchestrating or carrying out the scheme.
Okay, so George, if you don't have a guy with a wire or you don't have a cooperator, but you have a real nice, neat paper trail, even if it's a little bit complicated, like we saw in the Nicky Scarfo case in Jersey, the jury still gets it.
Oh, absolutely. And the case in Tampa that Joey was not involved in was $157 million medical insurance fraud. That kind of thing is a very sexy kind of case. Yeah. And they talk about, well, we're legitimate, we're doing legitimate things. The safety school is one example. But one of the New York safety schools had an FBI undercover informant on the payroll illegally. I mean, that's what these businesses are about. A lot of different ways to make money and to siphon money out. And that was one example. Down here, we haven't seen it yet, but that's always a suspicion. There's something else beside legitimacy. We'll see.
And John, a jury can relate to something that affects them in the wallet, am I right?
Absolutely, absolutely. If they see somebody's hard-earned dollars going into somebody's pocket illegally, it has an impact. It definitely has an impact.
Does it matter now who's the boss in Philadelphia? There's so many different groups out on the street. It doesn't look like there's one boss right now. There probably is, but it doesn't look like it. Looks like everybody's kind of doing their own thing, as George said.
I think it matters if we're trying to put together a RICO case, because you want to be able to show an organization a hierarchy. So yes, it does matter in that regards. To the guys that are out there on the street committing crimes, I don't know. I mean, to your point, it seems like there's a fair amount of freelancing that's going on. Ultimately, does the boss expect to get something out of it? Yeah. If he's not, that could create the type of conflict that we just mentioned.
All right. Did you ever expect to see the old Scarfo guys, the Merlino guys, and the Legambi guys all on the street at the same time?
It's amazing, right? If you live long enough, right?
Yeah. George, I don't even know what to say.
No,
to
no,
that.
it comes back to what
Yeah.
John just said. Maybe there's not a boss now, but if there's conflict, like he's talking about, you almost need a boss to try to tamp it down. If you don't have anybody in charge at that point, it could become more serious.
The wise, sage kind of guy in this mix is Joe Legambi. Beat the last charges, has been known to kind of settle everybody down a little bit. Is he the guy that does that right now?
Well, I mean, I think yes, and I think also he can talk to some of the older Scarfo guys that are back now. That's where the smart guys are, the older guys.
Yeah.
Are they going to play a role? Who knows?
And those guys are doing pretty well for themselves.
It
Philip
seems-
Narducci has a restaurant.
Yeah.
Joe Pungator's buying and selling homes. They all seem to be doing very well.
Yes, I mean, I think they want to be legitimate to whatever degree that is, and we'll see how it plays out.
All right, and not to impugn anybody here. Everybody's doing what they're doing on the up and up. There's no charges, there's no indictments, there's no accusations here. But given the history, as you always talk about,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what it is. It's what John just said. These are legitimate companies, but is there more to it? We don't know the answer to that right now.
all right, we'll find that out, I guess. All right, it's not too often you get George Anastasia and the former head of Squad 1, the FBI's organized crime squad. Pretty good stuff.
Only on Mob Talk.
There you go. We'll see you next week.